Okay, looks like the recorder has started. So again, hello and welcome. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on the replay. Either way, I'm glad you're here. My name is Rick Baxter with Cost Control Software. Just to be sure you're in the right room, this is going to be on visual drag and drop scheduling for your Microsoft Dynamics NAV jobs and field service. This is not the presentation on for production orders. So some of you might be thinking this is production orders. This is specifically for jobs and field service. Now, just so you know a little bit about me, I help Microsoft Dynamics users like yourself, I'm hoping like yourself, or maybe even resellers. I notice there's a few resellers on the phone call, and we're always glad to have you here as well. But my job is to help you get the most from your NAV software. That's kind of why I'm assuming you're here evaluating the purchase of this product. So today I'm going to show you how to schedule your NAV jobs and your NAV service orders with the PlannerOne Resource Planner software. And I'm going to do this in what I call my 4 easy steps. You'll see that here in just a minute. Now, my goal is to help you evaluate this software for a purchase. Okay, I would assume that's the reason that you're here, is you're evaluating this software to eventually implement it in your business. When you registered, I asked each one of you why you wanted to attend this webinar, because I think it's important for me to understand what you want to get out of this session. Well, it was pretty overwhelming. Many of you said that you're trying to use Microsoft Excel to do your scheduling and not doing it fully integrated with your NAV software. So that was kind of the overall, I'd say, direction that people wanted. So really in the next 60 minutes, I'm going to kind of show you exactly how the software works and how you can put away those Excel spreadsheets and let the PlannerOne software fully integrate with your environment. So let's get started. I'm going to scroll this down a little bit here. Ben sent the study guide to most everybody today, I believe, this morning. So you should be able to follow along. Today's session is definitely on the PlannerOne. I don't know if you've heard of that product or not, but PlannerOne is the brand name from a company called Ortems, and the product we're going to look at today is called Resource Planner. Not production scheduler, Resource Planner. It's designed for jobs and field service, and it's designed to create Gantt chart views like you see here on the screen of your resources down the left side or your jobs down the left side, and then a timeline across the top, and then all the activities that are assigned to each one of your resources. So this is the goal, and how we get there is what I'm going to take you through today. Now, my goal for today's presentation is really pretty simple. I want to provide, first of all, a really good software presentation. So I'm really going to get into the software today and help you decide if you should purchase this product. I'm assuming that's why you're here today, is part of this software purchase evaluation. And I'm just pleased to have, we've got 11 on the call, which is exactly what I thought we would have. So that's great to have everyone here in attendance. Okay, so I want to be sure you understand the agenda. It's pretty straightforward. I do want to talk just briefly about why an electronic scheduling system is needed, what's the advantage of it, and then we'll learn that how to do it with the 4 daily steps. I'm going to take you through the kind of the day in the life of a scheduler and what happens when you have scheduling software installed in your NAV software. So I'm going to kind of try to paint the vision of you having this software. So I'm going to show some of the NAV software and then show you some of the scheduling software as well. I'm going to take you through a little orientation on the planning board itself. I really want you to understand the feature functionality. I won't show you every little button and thing that you can push, but I'll give you enough sense for the next 60 minutes how this thing works. And then certainly I want you to know how to learn more about the product. I'm going to have some recommendations there of how you can learn more about the PlannerOne software. So I want to start by being real clear on the purpose of scheduling. A lot of people have a misunderstanding of what this is. So first of all, MRP, the material requirements planning, in NAV for jobs and job manager helps you understand what to make or what service to provide if you're using the service module, when to make it, how much to make, materials required, resources required, and certainly job profitability, the revenue minus the cost on a job shows you what the profitability is. That's the purpose of the NAV software. Now, scheduling software has a little different mission. You've got to understand what the two, they're just different. The scheduling software is how best to make it, what sequence to make it in, what task sequence. We're talking about all the tasks within your job and how that looks on the Gantt chart and how you assign those tasks to your technicians. We'll do some task assignments as well. You also want to be able to manage priorities, constraints, conflicts, make changes, make moves, adjust the schedule, monitor exceptions, manage the changes that have to occur. That's the role of a scheduler. Okay, very different than the costing that goes on the NAV side. So we've got a whole kind of new area that you would be considering using when you bring in the scheduling software. Now, before I jump into the actual software, I want to be sure that you even need a scheduling tool. So think about some of these questions. First of all, if you have 50 jobs and there's 20 tasks on a job, that means you have, I get that right? Yeah, 1,000 open activities. 50 jobs, 50 open jobs, 20 tasks on a job, that's 1,000 activities that have to be managed somehow. You've got to schedule that workload. So think of 1,000, maybe in your case, you may have 2,000 or 3,000 open activities that need to be scheduled, organized, displayed, shared with employees, shared with management. That's what it's all about. How many open activities? So you need to get a kind of account internally, and I can't do this on, we're not in a phone call. So think in terms and write that down in the book, what you think your count would be. How about this one? Where are your field technicians compared to the job site? Have you ever thought about having a map and being able to see on a map where the job site is and where your field technicians are currently located and what's the best route to have them get to that job site? That would be pretty cool. But you've got all that information. It's just not displayed on a map. Okay, who's available? Okay, who's available when Bob is suddenly out sick? What do you do when a technician calls in sick in the morning and he had 6 service calls the next day? Who's going to take up the slack? You've got to think in terms of how do I quickly reassign somebody else when Bob is not available that day? Or a machine. Maybe you've got a machine in the process and the machine's down for maintenance or something like that, and you have to do some quick reassignments. So all of that is what we want to do with the scheduling software, accommodate those changes. And you've got questions like, when is job number 29 going to finish? What's a realistic finish date for a particular job? Everybody wants to know this kind of stuff. When's that job going to start? So how do you find out that information? Well, the Gantt chart views are great ways to view and understand that information. And then, of course, all of this is about sharing the schedule with your staff. I think it's very important that everybody can see and understand what is the current schedule. Okay, so with all of that in mind, I'm going to jump into what I call my daily procedures. What do we do every day when we run the software? And I break it down into 4 fairly quick steps. It's just there's 4 things that you do to kind of process information from jobs or from service orders. And I'm going to take you through them one by one here as we go through this. And I'm pleased to have, we got 12 on the call. Thank you very much for taking a little time out of your busy day to join me for a little training on PlannerOne Resource Planner. So the first thing we want to do for a job is add a new job. Now, when you add jobs, think in terms of your own business. Do you just go and select the new button and add a new job? Or does it come from a sales order or from a sales quote? How do you put those new jobs into the software? Everybody does it a little differently, and a lot depends on the software that you might be using. But we want to plan it in Resource Planner. So the key here is that you have to say yes on the jobs that you do want to schedule. There's a check mark on the job that says, yes, this job is to be scheduled, because you may not want to schedule every single job. You may have a job that's just so quick and in and out that you don't want to put it on the schedule. Okay. Or you may have other jobs that just, absolutely that has to get scheduled. So you can control what gets scheduled with a little check mark on here. We're going to do this in just a second. I'm going to put in a live job because I want you to see this from scratch. So once you do that, you set your job planning lines. Now, I hope those of you on the call understand what job planning lines are. I'll take just a minute and explain it in case you don't. But it's got the date, it has the resource, and it's got the amount of time, because we're scheduling time, not quantity. So we can't schedule tons or pounds or grams or anything like that. We can only schedule time. That's what the scheduling software is for. So only line items that have time involved with them, hours, minutes, days, things like that, then we can schedule that on the planning board. Do understand that difference. So what we're going to do is on the job, so here's a job list. What we're going to do is we're going to choose the scheduling option, and then I'm going to show you some things about how that schedule is set up. And then I'm going to jump into service management and do some similar things there. So okay, it's time to kind of go look at the software. So now we know what we're going to do. Let's go do it, Rick. Okay, so I'm going to go into our job list. So I'm just going to click on the tile. That's going to bring up my list of 50 some jobs. I forget, there was quite a few jobs in here. And I'm going to add a new job, and I'm going to put it right here under this conveyor project. I like using conveyors. It's a nice kind of generic item, has to be custom designed and fabricated and then often installed on a customer's site. So you'll see I'll have several conveyors here. So this is going to be job 5020. I've got an 01, 02, and 03 sub-jobs within those groups, and you'll notice on the right side I've already got some contract amounts and estimates for these jobs that are already in here. But I want to put a new one in, and so we can just kind of follow it from scratch. So to add a new job, guess what? You just pick the new button. And by the way, what I'm showing you here, if you're the scheduler, close your eyes, because this is not what the scheduler does. The scheduler typically does not add new jobs. So I'm going to press enter. Brings up a list of the master jobs. Now you may not have this functionality. I kind of like the concept of having a master job so I can group sub jobs underneath those master jobs. You may or may not have this functionality in your software. Doesn't really matter. We're just going to kind of focus on the scheduling part of it. So this is sub job 5020-04. So this is the 4th sub job within this group of jobs. And now I want to do the conveyor. So I said I was going to do conveyor. So kind of boring, but you would pick from your templates whichever type of job that you're doing. And I'm just going to do one conveyor. Let's set the date. So we want the date, the ship date of this job. This is August. We'll do it September. Let's do sometime let's say by the end of October, we want to finish this job. So I put 1027. Okay, so that looks good. I say okay. It's now generating the job, so you can see it's flashing there and creating the job. Notice it's already brought in for me on this job the estimates of time. We got 280 hours of labor, the shop cost, some material cost. This job didn't have any outside processing, didn't have any overhead or transportation costs. There's the total, so $6,701. That's coming from my template. And I'm also going to change this job to an order job so we could post to it if we needed to. Now, the one thing I showed on the handout that you've got is that you want to be sure that on the PlannerOne tab, and this is what you'll get when you add this software to your nav job system, you'll get a new tab down here called PlannerOne and PlannerOne Resource Planner. I'll show you this in a minute. This is where you actually indicate with the check mark, and notice it comes in by default, yes, as that you will want to schedule this job, okay, in Resource Planner. And of course we do. In fact, we could even assign specific colors. So some of you may be kind of color oriented as far as types. So I'm going to do this one in blue. And so we can have color 1 and color 2 for the jobs so that you can sort and group your jobs by colors. Okay. So I think that's what I wanted to show you there. I've got this job now added. Let me go back to the study guide. So you'll see it here on the list. If I go to my list to refresh this list of jobs, here's my new one. In fact, I'm going to write this number down. I'm pretty bad with these numbers, so I've got a 5020-04. So that's subjob 04. I want to remember that for when we look at it on the planning board, because we're going to actually start scheduling this particular job. Let me see if I got anything else I want to mention while I'm here. Oh yeah, the planning lines. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about here on these planning lines. So I've added a choice to my menu called scheduling. Okay, you'll want to probably do something similar to this as well. So this is where I have my task list. Okay, and who's assigned. Here's the number of hours. This all came in by default through my template. Okay, so all automatic been added in. And notice the hours down here, the labor, this is assigned to labor 20 hours, and it's got a planning date of 9/8/17, which is coming from up here. These are all the planning dates for each of the activities within this list. Now, some of them, like for example, this machining, this is assigned to Linda Martin for 10 hours on that date. But some of these others, like the CAD and engineering work, that's labor 10 for 20 hours. That's what you see down here. And it all of that concept is when you first create a job, you don't always know who's going to do the work. But we want to be able to do some costing and estimating, and then also some scheduling. So I'm not going to cover the estimating part in this particular webinar. I cover estimating in my jobs and job manager training and webinar series as well. If you're interested in estimating for these jobs, estimated dollars and cost and revenue, I would encourage you to watch those particular, or ask me about those, and we'll be glad to do a demo of that. Okay, so what I want you to see is that for each of these tasks, we've got these specific, what are called planning lines. That's what NAV calls them, planning lines, that are going to show up on the planning board. Okay, so we have a planning board with the planning lines. Kind of makes sense. And it's the number of hours. We're not scheduling the materials. In fact, I noticed on this one for cutting, I do have some materials that's grayed out because we're not scheduling materials. We're only scheduling the time, so I gray out the materials. It still shows that it's there, but it's grayed out because it doesn't even apply for scheduling purposes. And then the only other thing I want to do on this screen, I'll show this to you here, is I like to set up a predecessor and successor links. I like this software to kind of go in, and now I could manually put these in here, I could just say the previous job task numbers and put these in, but I added a little function up here that just does this for me. So I click it, and it basically fills this in with the predecessor information, and it's an in-start relationship. So I'm setting it all up as a typical in-start relationship. Not, it could be a start-start, but most of you will be setting these up sequentially. And so they all tend to be in start. And the -A means that it's a strict link, that we're going to link those two. And you'll see that when I get into the Gantt chart view. Okay, so this job is now fully set up, so it is ready to go. And I've written that number down, 5020-04. So that's my 4th job within the conveyor project of multiple conveyors. Okay, so let's see how we're doing here on the schedule. Okay, now that's for you guys that do jobs. Now, some of you also have field service people that maybe even go out and repair or install the jobs that you are doing, or a customer may call and say, hey, I've got something broken, please come send a technician out to do some repair work. So for those of you that are using service management, the scheduling software can be a dispatch board as well. So it can be used for both. Okay, a lot of people think, oh, I can only do one or the other. No, it's going to be able to be used for both. So I want you to see this as well. And let's see if I had a screenshot here of this. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're going to go in and we're going to add a service order. And we'll put in some service order lines as well, so we can set up maybe just labor 10 on a service order, because I want you to see both happening with one pass is really what we want to do. So I'm going to move out of the way. And I've added service orders to my menu here on the left side. So I've got several service orders already in, but I want to put a new one in because I always like to follow things from scratch for you today. So I'm just going to press enter, and I better write this number down as well. So this is service order number 000016. So I'm going to try and remember that number. Description is a broken computer. All right, so the customer, who's the customer requesting the service, we'll just pick our famous Canon Group customer here. Doesn't really matter. You would have your, of course, your own customers in the list. And I'm not going to worry about that. So here's the customer. And now what we want to put down here on the lines is what item of that customer's are we servicing? Because this is how service management works, is that customer can have a whole series of serialized items that you are maintaining for them, and you can then select. So I'm just going to say item number 51. This is the actual service item. Press OK here. And so it says, okay, this customer is requesting, and what's the matter with it? So you can put a set of fault. So it's got some strange sound, and the symptom is that it's noisy. All right, so you can kind of indicate for the technician what the initial concept is of the problem. And then all you simply do to set up the amount of time, this is again where you set up your estimates. So you come into service lines, and if you're using service management, I'm hoping that you already know this, but just in case you don't, we're going to set up a resource. And I can pick from my list of resources. I could pick a specific person, or I could say just generally I want some labor. So I could just say labor pool, and I might want to have a date here. Let's see, today's date is the 23rd. Let's say by Friday we want to get out there, and it's going to be an 8-hour service call. Okay. So that's set up, and then you could print out this service ticket and give it to the technician, or email it to the technician, depending on how you transmit this work. All right, so remember this number 16, lucky 16, and then that's going to be on the service, on the planning board as well. Okay, let's go back to our role center. Make sure you're all in speed with me here. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. I think you got this concept. And so now we're ready to go to the second step. And the second step is to create the activities, or what I call the stickers, on the planning board. And I want you to see this process. So this is a little bit of training, guys. So understand, I'm really showing you step by step how you would use this software. Adding jobs, adding service orders, and now what we're going to do is generate the stickers on the board. And this, quite frankly, is where the scheduler starts. So what I'm going to show you next is what the scheduler would be doing first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning, he's going to open up the PlannerOne scheduling board and say, are there any new jobs? Are there any new service orders? That's this screen. Let's go take a look. So the scheduler will open up their screen. I double clicked it, but I think we're okay here. So it will come to this screen right here. It's going to come to the job planner screen. This is what's in your book. Okay, so this is the two jobs I added. Remember the service order number 16 broken computer, and that 5020 new conveyor project. That's this one here. So these two are basically not planned. So every morning he's going to come in and review, oh, there's a couple new orders in here. One's a service order and one's a job, a 5020 job that needs to get added to my scheduling, to the schedule board. So this is the first, really the first step of the scheduler, okay, is to kind of generate these service orders. So what does he do? Just keep up here with us. Make sure that you're with me here. So they're going to press this choice right here called Create Activities. Actually, I'm going to show it to you a little differently than that. Let me see if there's anything else I want to mention here. That's step 3. Okay, we're going to do this step. Okay, so we're going to create activity. So this activity creation, by pushing this button right here called Create Activities, you see it there in your study guide, that is going to generate for this service order one activity, which is for that service technician. I think I just used labor. I think I assigned it to labor 20 or labor 30 and then for this job, it should be generating several activities. But I could press this one, then I could do this one, or I could come down here for all jobs, which I think I'll do. And watch up here what happens. So I'm going to click Create Activities, and it does all the jobs that need to be planned. So all the service orders or the new jobs that need to be planned. And so now they change status to recently planned. This one created, you'll see right there, 14 activities have been created. And this one, hopefully you can see that on your screen, one activity created for that one technician to come do the work. Okay, so that's the first thing the scheduler does, and they might do this more than just in the morning. They might do this a couple times a day, quite frankly, depends on the number of new jobs or new service orders that you've got in your business. You may get multiple calls a day and you want to see all those new calls on the planning board. So you would maybe run this function 2 or 3 times a day. Just depends on the volume of business within your particular business model. Okay, step 3 of 4 is to either approve the dates from the job planning lines and service order lines, or move the activities if needed. So we're now going to go into the resource Gantt chart, and I'll show you the job Gantt chart as well, and see the stickers that have been created. Now this has more stickers than my sample database does, but I think you'll understand. So I'm going to go, let's start with the job Gantt chart. So I'm going to go to the job Gantt chart. These down the left side, just a little orientation here, down the left side is the list of jobs. Across the top is your timeline. So mine's by month, so it's showing several months up here. You may want to show that by week or by day. You can get down to a very detailed view. But I want to scroll down to those 2 new jobs that we just put in. We put in this one right here, 5020-4 new conveyor project. That's the job. And notice these are all the activities within it. You can see that if I open this job up, you can see here's that specifications, engineering, CAD work. So it shows the, start, the in start. So it shows that relationship between all of the work within that particular job. These triangles, the green triangle is the start date of that job, and the red triangle is the finish date of the job. So you can see as of right now, if I kind of collapse this back down, all the activities are within the original target start and the target end date. If things slip, and that's often what you want to know, is if some of these activities slip into dates outside of the target finish date, I want to get a warning. The warning is shown pretty clearly with this color views. Right now it's just colorized by job number, but I could colorize it by color scheme number 1. Remember, if we made that one job blue, remember I set that up to be blue, so you can have your own custom colorization. You can have it also colorized by customer, so all the certain customers, or by what's called advanced delay. In other words, is the job on time or not? Okay, that is very useful information, especially for this advanced delay. You'll see a dark green is the job is early. If it's way early by more than 10 days, a lighter green is not quite as on time. 11 is it's still within its planned dates, but it's getting closer to the end. The oranges and the reds would be problems. So if you have a job that is showing up as either, I'll bring this back up, either red or orange, that means it has slipped way past its due date, and we need those alerts to kind of show up, and it shows it to you in these colors. That's kind of handy. So that's the job. Let's go back to just the job colors. And then what was the sales order number? It was right here, 16, which is this broken computers, what I typed in, and there's the start and finish date, so it's still within its target range. Now, this is just a sliver because it's just on that one day. It was 8 hours, right? But you can do what's called enlarge these activities, and that just makes it a little easier to see it. In fact, you might even change the row height, what's medium, so that's okay. All right, so that kind of shows you that one activity. These others are out there, but they're probably, yeah, see, they're over here on these dates. So it's showing all the work that's going on. Okay, now let's go back to our study guide. I want to try and stay somewhat on track here. Now, the plan that I just showed you is called the working plan until it's published. So that allows you as the scheduler to actually make changes to the schedule. And I'll just give you a couple quick examples. We'll just use the ones that we were on. So I'm going to go back to another view, which is called the resource Gantt chart view. And this shows me the same information, but it's kind of turned on its side, and now it's by resource instead of by job. So it's the same kind of information, but this is where this can get really interesting. A lot of these were assigned. You'll notice a lot of my assignments here are to labor pool 10. Let me open this up a little bit. So what that tells me is that we assigned some of this work to this labor pool, but as the scheduler, you may want to now assign it to somebody specific. So that you use the move command right here. It's called move activities. And it's literally, I can hold it down and I literally can drag and drop any one of these activities. So I'm going to move this up to Kristen. So I literally move it and drag it up to that person's row. So that's a resource assignment. So when I just grab an activity, I'm going to assign this to Sam. I'm going to come here to this cutting. I'm going to say Kristen's can do this here. And so I'm doing a drag and drop, a visual drag and drop, very simple process. I'm just holding down the mouse. And by the way, if you're using a tablet, and this software does work in a tablet mode as well. So here is, I'll open up a browser. This is Bing, but I've also got on one of my tabs, PlannerOne. So the same information that I had, let's go back to the resource Gantt view. So the same information that I've got on the planning board, I've got here where it's move this activity. So if I want to activate a move, it is. So I could assign this now to Doug. I've reassigned that with that particular task to a different technician. So it's, and I'm set up, oh, I got to mention this. I'm set up as the master scheduler. You can also have people that are just viewers. Now, a viewer can just view the information. They can't change any information. But the master scheduler has the power. And if this was on a tablet, so if you had this browser on your tablet and you're walking around in the shop and you want to see what the current schedule is, you can literally bring it up on your scheduling board, okay, right here in your browser. It's no different than Bing or Google or any, this is just a regular browser. And you can see all of that scheduling information, and the board works exactly the same. And most tablets are touch enabled so that you can just touch instead of using the mouse. You would literally use your finger to move the operations around on the screen. And we find people get real quick with being able to move and adjust the schedule right on screen like that. Okay, so I wanted you to see that there's two ways. One, this is the kind of the embedded view, and the other is certainly using the a browser type view to get to the same information. And this is because it's all web services. All of this is using web services to talk back to your NAV software is where this is coming from. Okay, but the plan is a working plan until it's published. Okay, so anybody in Nav won't see any of those changes that you make. I moved quite a few things around, right? But so they won't see any of that until you literally publish the plan. So through security, you've got three levels of viewers. You have a viewer who can just view the plan. You have collaborators who can annotate with markers. I'll show you that in a little bit. And schedulers that can basically adjust the plan. And that's the position I'm in. So that's step 3. Now, step 4, the last 4 of 4, is to publish. So once you're satisfied with the schedule, it's time to publish the plan to Dynamics NAV jobs and or service orders. So you simply go to the Planning tab, select Publish, and in version 5.0 and 6.0, that's the current release, you can automate this so that the publish doesn't, it just happens every about 5 seconds. It can just auto publish and you don't have to even push the publish button. I kind of like it because I like showing you the publish button. So let me just go ahead and move this out of the way. And it's on this tab right here. There's only 4 tabs, by the way, so it's pretty easy software to learn. I mean, hopefully you kind of catch on to some of the moves. I'll come back and cover some of these other things in a minute. But there's the display option where I mentioned you can change the view. You can set the row height. You can change the colors. You can do that. I showed you a little bit of that. And then you can publish the information. And the publish is basically anything that you moved or reassigned a task to a technician. We want that information published back over to Nav so that they know. Not just, you just don't want to hold it here. So you hit publish and it says, do you want to publish the plan? Yes, of course we do. So you say okay, and it's magically taking all the stickers in their current status and it's sending into a special table in Nav, data sent to ERP, all this information. So it's updating this table in Nav that holds all sorts of information about the current schedule. And from that table, then you can write reports, you can do drill downs, you can do all sorts of things with the data that's stored in that published plan. I'll show you that here in just a second. So we publish. Oh, there's the example. So right there. And I put these print screens in your study guide so that you can see and follow this process. I'm hoping when you install the software that you will use and rewatch this video to help you with the basics of learning, but there's our advanced course on this is on our costcontrolacademy.com. Okay, so the question I often get right about here is how frequently should you publish? Well, the answer there is how frequently do you get new jobs or new service orders? If you're getting new service orders, 10 a day or 20 a day, then I'd be publishing quite often. Okay, so it really depends on your daily activity. So I see people that may publish once times a day or maybe 10 times a day. Just depends on the level of activity within your business. So I want to review the first this workflow before I go any further, and then I'm going to ask you a quick poll. So let me zoom into this just a little bit here on the planning board. Let's see if I can get that big for you on your screen. Here we go. All right, there we go. That's probably too big. Oops, there. Okay, so on the left side is your NAV software. That's your estimating and accounting software with jobs, job tasks, job planning lines. I don't have service orders shown in this diagram, but they're in here too. So you'd have service orders, service lines, and service planning lines. And resources in your resource groups. But all of this data, let me back up. The key here is the job planning lines and those service lines that I showed you on step 1. That's what's sent to the planning board. As soon as you hit that create activities, it creates those activities on the planning board. And then the scheduler, if needed, can move, edit the planning board, move stickers around, make reassignments, make changes. It's a fully visual drag and drop process. And all of that then gets transferred back to NAV with this publish command. So when you run publish, it updates this thing called the activity table in NAV. And from there, you can create reports and you can display at the job level, the task level, the planning line level, any of the information by just creating some simple flow fields into this table, and it'll show you exactly the, for example, how many scheduled hours do I have on a job? That's going to be stored here, and it's just summing up the number of hours that are assigned to that particular job, or how many hours assigned to a task. Well, that's going to be just the summation. It's a lookup, no, it's a sum flow field that gives you that quick answer. Okay, so that is the cycle. I want to be sure that you get this. And before I go further, and I'm going to launch a quick poll. So a little bit of interaction here. I'm going to make you use your mouse. So grab your mouse and let me know, based on what you've seen so far, let me know about the degree of difficulty. Is this easy? Is it hard? Is it much easier than you thought it would be? Much harder than you thought it would be? Or is this not for you and you're going to drop off the call? Which is okay. I mean, if what I'm showing you does not apply to your business, then by all means, you can drop off the call. It's okay. But I'm hoping that you kind of like what you're seeing and following along the concepts as I'm showing them to you here. Okay, we've got 70%, 80% voting. Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to close out the poll. I'll share it back with you. And we had 75% of you saying easy, and 25%, the other group, said much easier than you thought it would be. So excellent. So we're doing something right here. So you usually get some people who say, whoa, this is really hard stuff. But I'm glad you're feeling like you kind of understand what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to move on. I've got some other things I want to share with you here. The published results can be viewed at 3 different levels. Let's zoom out a little bit on the job site. So what you typically create, and I don't think I'm going to take the time to actually show you each of these screens, but I've got some nice print screens here. You can see it. So you can create a scheduling fact box, and the customers that buy from us, we provide this. with the software as well is this scheduling fact box. It shows how many scheduled hours, what the scheduled start date is and the scheduled end date for each of the jobs on your job list. That's called the job level scheduling. We also show the task level scheduling. Remember, we generated these predecessor links? Well, it publishes back, and so for each task, design, fabrication, installation, we can show the scheduled hours, the scheduled start date, and the scheduled finish date for every one of these tasks, which may or may not be the same as what you originally estimated, because the scheduler has the final say-so of when some work is going to get done. That's the understanding here, is the scheduler, quite frankly, can trump the work done by the estimator. And then at the job planning line level, we do that also. I like to show for each planning line. So this is the job planning line view here. So Tom Johnson may be originally assigned, maybe, and now the scheduling comes back and says, well, I've assigned that to somebody else, or it's still him. But it shows the scheduled hours, scheduled start date, and scheduled end date for that. And same thing on the service management for those of you that use the service system. It's basically publishing to the resource allocation table, and it updates those resources. You've probably seen this, where it shows the resource allocation and how many hours, 8 on each of the different days that they are working. So especially if it's a long duration service call. Okay, so I want to do one more quick poll while we're thinking about it here. I would like to know, for those of you on the call, how you schedule now. How are you doing this? You must have some method of doing your scheduling by hand or on paper or on a whiteboard, or maybe you don't even schedule, but you probably should, okay? And if you're a user of Resource Planner, let me know that as well. So people are voting away. Click, click, click. Hurry, hurry. Click the buttons. And I'm going to close the poll. Sorry, I got to be quick on these things. So I've got 17% of you saying you're using some kind of whiteboard where you put a schedule up on a wall. Okay, I'm going to try and convince you to move that to a big monitor and just show, basically, if you're putting on a whiteboard, why not just put this up on a monitor on the wall? That's a whole lot easier. And 50% of you, that's a lot, use Excel for scheduling. Oh my goodness, we got to get you away from that. And because it's totally standalone, and there's no interaction. Here it's totally integrated. Okay, and 33% say that you don't, but that you need to. And at least you're aware that you need to. I appreciate that. And hopefully, based on what I'm showing you, the purchase of this software is certainly within reason to get that done. Okay, let me move that out of the way for you. I want you to see the screen again. So let's go a little bit further, and I want to mention a couple quick things here about the planning board, a little orientation to what is on this planning board. So how do you read it? So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'll just kind of work off of my list, and you should have this same list there in front of you. Okay, so just park this for a second. So the way you read the planning board is down the left side typically is your resources. Kristen, Rick, Sam, labor pool, okay, Ralph, Henry. Now these could be machines as well. So you could be that you want to show machines in your scheduling, machines or people. Either way, it works great. But that's what you have on the left side. Then across the top is your timeline, which, by the way, you can zoom into with the wheel on your mouse. So I'm just holding down the control and wheel with the mouse, and you can zoom in, zoom out that way as well. Okay. There are multiple views. Do I have this somewhere else? I may have this. Oh, yeah. I'm going to save that for the next page. Okay, so the highlight option, I did mention this already on the display. You can change the colors, okay, by job, by work type, by your own color scheme, how you want to show inventory items potentially, how you want to group the colors, by advanced delay. You can show whether things are late or whether the greens are certainly on times. So that lets you see it very, very vividly that, you know, what's late or what's about to be late on that view when you have it in that mode. Okay, and then there is, so this is the resource Gantt chart. I've shown you the drag and drop option, so that's covered. The close period, I'll just mention this very briefly here, is the ability to say, okay, Kristen, let's just do Kristen. So I'm going to say Kristen is not going to be available, we'll say vacation. Okay, so I add that in there. Okay, so what that's doing is it's putting basically a kind of a block that says Kristen's going to be out for vacation that week, and so I shouldn't really assign anything to her. So visually, it helps you run that schedule. That's with a simple close period, and the opposite is open periods. Like if she's going to be working over a weekend, you could basically open a period, and then, by the way, the length of the sticker will change based on the amount of time. Because if I double click a sticker, you will see this one is for 40 hours. So that shows me, this is a little pop-up that shows me how many hours and who's assigned and so forth here. By the way, you can, when you pop these up, you can see who's currently assigned, but if you want to make a change, you can do that right from here. So let's change from Sam to Rick, that's me, and I'll say okay, and watch, see it just boop, it just moves that sticker from Sam to Rick. So that's the same as doing a visual drag and drop. Where's the drag? Here's the move, and I could just move it, you know, move it around or change the start date, that type of thing, very, very simply. Close period, operation screen tips I showed. Well, that's the little pop-ups here. You can change what shows on those screens. Some of the actions, I showed you some of these actions. And you can create, you can delete, you can complete activities. You can flag them as complete right here. So lots of things you can do right on screen. You can filter them. This is another great way to do this. I think I can show this to you here. So if I come here and highlight this job, then it will show me for this job, and it links them. See how it's got these things linked? That's that in-start relationship for this job. I can even focus that job down, and then I can see the activity. So it does these three. This is assigned to labor pool, then this comes down, and Linda Martin is going to be working on this activity, and then it's going to go down to welding. Timothy's going to be doing that, then it moves over to painting, and Mary's going to be doing that. So you can kind of see visually, I mean, that's the whole purpose of this software, is for you to see visually the work activity that is occurring on these jobs. Now, I did mention resource assignment. You know, I think I should show one other thing here. When you pop up these views, you can assign based on the individual. So I could select here, but there's a map view as well. So for those of you that actually need to be able to kind of see the activity, let me get rid of that. And okay, so here is the kind of a map view. Let's see, come on. Where's Ralph? There we go. Okay, so this shows where the job's located and where your technicians are located. There's Ralph Henry right there. And so where is the job? Now Timothy is right there where the job site is. So quite frankly, Timothy would be the better one to select, but you can assign the resources this way in a map view. And for those of you that are doing, especially for technicians that travel a lot, whether it's around the country or even around the world, you can see where they're currently located. This can be based on their last data or in real time if they have some kind of GPS tracking device that can transmit their location to you then the individual stickers can move around on the planning board. So this is just another way. So this view here is just another way to change assignment. So if we want to assign that to Ralph, we just hit assign to Ralph, puts his name in there, and then it moves the sticker from Mary up to Ralph. So that's, just one more way to do it, and wanted you to see some of that as well. Okay, now the resource Gantt from the job card. Oh, that is something I should show you as well. So the last thing I want to show here, let's go back to the job card for just a minute, because I think this is a great view as well. So when you're on a job, let me edit this particular job. This is the one we created, 502004. And this has been scheduled, so it's on the scheduling board. But you've got the job card, but you can literally scroll down and you can see the activities within this job now, the Gantt chart view of this job right on the job card. How cool is that? I think this is really great. So you've got all that statistical information, the job profitability and statistics on the job, but now you've gone a step further and you literally can see your tasks in a Gantt chart view with the dates and the assignments down the left side. So just a really nice presentation to be able to see that Gantt view right here on the job card itself. Okay, so let's go back here, and I mentioned some of those things, so I've shown you that. Okay, so some of the additional views, this one I did show at the beginning, if you remember, but this is a job Gantt chart, so it lets you see your jobs down the left side, and then you can expand the view and it shows it that way. The resource load, this lets you see for each resource how many hours have been assigned to them, what's their capacity, and what's the load that is on them. And these turn red if there's an overload situation. So it's a very nice way to and it's per day. So it's also in a Gantt chart kind of view for that load chart. The resource sequence, I didn't have time to show this, but I'll just mention it here. This is another view that says, okay, for a particular resource, what is in their queue? So if I brought up Linda, and it would show me this is job number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, things that are in that person's queue, and then you can send that to Excel and print it out if you want to give them a hard copy. Another nice feature is Outlook synchronization. So you can bring up a particular person's calendar, see it in a graphical kind of calendar view right within the PlannerOne software, but then you can synchronize this to your Outlook calendar, and it will literally then have it on your phone or tablet so that you can see the schedule that has been created or reassigned directly on your telephone. Pretty cool. Okay, and the last view, I did just show this already. Here's this skills management. Oh, one other comment, on this. When you're selecting the technician to assign, you may want to assign them based on their skill. Maybe they got to be able to weld, and only certain of your technicians can do welding. So you can say, well, what is the skill set of this individual? And if they have that particular skill, which is called for on the service order, then it will it'll shorten your list of available resources to just the ones. You're kind of filtering your labor pool down to the ones that have the particular skill set that are needed for that job. And then the other way is by service zone. You may say, well, if I only want to see technicians that work in the Midwest or Northeast, and limit your list because it's too far to travel to California, it'd be better to find a technician on the West Coast rather than the East Coast and then fly them to wherever they need to go. So just be aware that's I didn't show that earlier, and distance. You can also assign it by who's the closest. So lots of ways to do this thing. Okay, we're almost done. Hang in there. I want to give you just one more chance to vote on some things here. and I want to launch one last poll. And I'm curious, based on lots of things that you've seen today, what are some of your, or what is your favorite feature set out of this software? Is it the job planning lines going to the planning board? Ability to use the resource sequence functionality? I didn't show much of that. Ability to edit the Gantt chart with a simple drag and drop? Calendar views that integrate with MS Project? With MS Outlook? And then mapping. Some of the people like the ability to map and see where their technicians are based on the job location for the field technician. Okay, got, wow, okay. Everybody's picked the one. Okay, so everybody's picked almost the same thing. This is amazing. I never get this. Okay, so I'm going to close this and look at this. Let me share this back with you. 100% of you say it's the ability to edit the Gantt chart with a simple drag and drop. Everybody likes that ability to drag and drop that work activity and assign it to somebody else or change it on the calendar. And that's the purpose of the software. So I guess that kind of makes sense. The other things are kind of nice to have, but this is a very much a drag and drop functionality. And 100% of you, that's amazing, felt that that was, in fact, the most important part of the software. So that's great. A couple summary items, and then I'm going to open it up for some questions. And first of all, this is all real time, so it uses web services and it's instantaneous or almost instantaneous to your nav software. There's no setup. It's quick and easy to use. Graphical planning. It's easy to understand when it's graphical. It works right out of the box. It's just so quick to set this thing up. It's developed using the latest Microsoft technologies, integrated. It's fully certified for your software. Key functionality, bi-directional integration with that publish command, the visualization, the publish, and so forth, and pricing. Everybody wants to know how much this stuff costs. So I've put in here a link to download our price catalog with some implementation estimates in here. So if you're interested in pricing, just click on this link in your study guide, or just send me an email or put it in the Q&A and say, Rick, please send me a quote. I'd be glad to do that as well. We handle, just so you know, we handle here all of the sales, the installation, the setup, and all the training that you're going to need for learning this particular product. How do you buy it? And I'm hoping you like what you see and you want to purchase this software. You just call me. Just call and say, Rick, I attended this webinar, and hey, I really want to learn more about this product. And what I normally do is set up a company-specific demonstration with your data. I like to show it with your data, not mine. I think it's real important for you to see it with your stuff. Okay, I'm going to put up my contact information. We're going to wrap it up right here. My name again is Rick Baxter. I'm with Cost Control Software. I'm coming to you live today from Carmel, Indiana, or if you're watching this on the replay, I'm not live and it's not Wednesday the 23rd. But I'm glad that you're here, and I hope you have some questions. So if you have questions, now is the time to kind of put them into the Q&A box. And the first one is, how will resource mark their task complete? I think I showed the complete button there, and gender, so that you just click it and it shows it as complete. Got a question. I am contemplating production planning and attending this seminar to learn the abilities, which I assume will be similar. It'll be more than similar. It'll be exact. When are we having a similar seminar on production planning? So if you're interested, this is, I think this is my gentleman from India. This is, we have webinars on this product, which is for jobs and service, and we also have webinars on the production planning. If you would like that, when you go to our Academy website, the costcontrolacademy.com, you can select the replay there from my previous presentation, so you don't have to wait to see the next one. Just watch the replay of the one I did probably only about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you'll be able to see the replay on the one for nav manufacturing. This one, just to be sure that you're aware, this one was for jobs. We stated that right up here at the very beginning, that this is for jobs and field service. Good. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, any other questions that people have? The way you ask a question is you just type it in the question box. If I don't see questions, we'll close it out, but I'm going to wait here just a couple minutes and see if we have any additional questions or comments. If you like today's webinar, I'd always love your feedback, either through an email, or you can just put in the question box, hey, Rick, that was a really good presentation. Or you could say, Rick, you went way too fast. I got lost. But I think most people kind of followed along based on the feedback that I got from the questions. So that's good. Now's your chance. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. You better type quick. Okay. So I think we will wrap it up unless I see a question in the last second. Thank you all very much. The next webinar, what are we doing next? So I don't think there's one next week. I think we get a week off, and then the next one's going to be on quality control. So if you have interest in adding quality control to your Dynamics NAV software, I'd encourage you to attend that, and we will send out to everybody a reminder about that in about a week and a half. You'll get an email invitation for that. Okay, I'm going to close it out. Thanks so much for attending. You guys have a great day.